I always thought salutes were automatic, a habit, like breathing in uniform. Until one day, someone didn't salute. It happened in the main briefing room at the Pentagon. Everyone stood, boots polished, hands ready. Then General Hartwell walked in. Every officer in the room saluted. Except one. She stood still, no hand raised, no nod, no eye contact. I was just 2 steps behind her, and for a moment, the whole room stopped moving. Some thought she forgot. Others thought she just ruined her entire career. But 3 days later, I saw the truth. That salute she didn't give it might have saved 24 American lives, including her brother's. I watched it all from her first silent act to the storm it started. And this is the story I've never told, until now. Back then, none of us really understood her. Sarah Chun was different. She spoke quietly, never joked in the hall, never joined small talk. She took her lunch at her desk, same sandwich every day, scribbling in notebooks full of code and question marks no one else understood. To be honest, I thought she was cold, maybe even arrogant. But looking back, I think she just saw something the rest of us didn't. We were focused on the surface names, mission schedules. She was looking deeper. It wasn't just intelligence work to her. It was something personal, something moral. Like she was always measuring every order against something no one else could see. I didn't realize it at the time. None of us did. But the first crack appeared the day she opened that folder marked Operation Nightfall. And her hand trembled just for a second. I remember the moment like it happened yesterday. We'd just wrapped up a standard intel sync. Nothing unusual, at least not to me. Sarah stayed behind in the briefing room alone. I passed by her desk 10 minutes later and saw it a red-stamped folder open under the pale desk lamp. Operation Nightfall, that was the title. Most people would have flipped through the pages, skimmed the highlights, moved on. But not her. She was frozen. One hand on the page, the other clenched in her lap. I saw her eyes dart across the words, then pause. Her jaw locked tight. And for the first time since I'd known her hand trembled. Just slightly, but enough for me to feel something shift in the air. At the time, I told myself I imagined it. That it was just the lighting. But what I didn't know was that folder didn't just hold classified intel. It held the first thread of a trap, and Sarah had just started to pull. I didn't know what she'd seen in that folder, not yet. But that night, she didn't go home. The light at her desk stayed on long after the rest of us left. I came back around 11 to grab my phone charger, and found her still there. Her uniform jacket was off sleeves, rolled notes everywhere, her posture like stone. I asked if everything was all right. She didn't look up, just said quietly, "They're sending him in." I didn't understand. "Who?" She looked at me for the first time all day, and I'll never forget how empty her voice sounded. My brother, David, the one person I still have. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about strategy or protocol or even truth. This was personal. Her own flesh and blood was being sent straight into what she now suspected might be a setup. From that moment, Sarah wasn't just reading reports. She was running against time. After that night, Sarah changed. Not in some dramatic way. She still showed up early, still kept to herself. But something was different, tighter, focused. I'd catch glimpses of her reading intel reports long after the meetings ended, marking files that no one else flagged. She started cross-referencing things, troop movements, satellite feeds, intercepted messages, all linked to that one op, Nightfall. Most of us, we trusted the data. But Sarah, she trusted her instincts more, and her instincts were screaming. She said the intel looked too clean, too coordinated. Perfect intelligence, she once muttered under her breath, usually means someone's feeding it to you for a reason. She didn't say it to make noise. She said it like she was warning herself. And, from what I saw, she stopped trying to confirm the mission. She started trying to prove it was a lie. No one assigned her to look deeper. No one gave her clearance to question anything. But Sarah. She didn't wait for permission. I'd see her slip into the records room after hours, make calls from secure lines, request raw intel feeds no one had time to analyze. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But it was relentless. I asked her once, half joking, if she was planning to write a book on all this. She didn't even smile. Just said, "I'm trying to find what no one wants to find." I should have asked more, should have offered to help. But the truth is, most of us just hoped she was wrong. Because if she was right, then everything we were following, every briefing, every order, was built on a lie. And in this place, that kind of truth doesn't get applause. It gets buried. The next morning, I walked past the skiff on level 2. The door was closed, but I could hear voices low-clipped. One of them was Sarah, and the other was General Marcus Hartwell. She'd requested a one-on-one briefing. No aides, no observers, just her and the highest-ranking officer in the building. I never got the transcript, but word travels fast in places like this. She told him straight, Operation Nightfall is compromised. The intel is poisoned. If we move forward, our people will die. Hartwell's reply, calm, cold. "Captain, that operation has been approved at the highest levels. What you're suggesting is impossible." I heard someone say she didn't flinch, that she laid the folder on his desk and said, "With respect, sir, impossible is just what they count on you believing." A few hours later, I saw her walk past me in the corridor. No eye contact, no expression, but her hands were shaking. The next day, they gathered us all in briefing room 3. Every officer, every rank, lined up, boots, polished backs, straight. General Hartwell walked in like thunder. He didn't look at anyone for long, just enough to remind you he didn't need to. "Operation Nightfall is a go," he said. "Mission parameters confirmed." I stood there, hands behind my back, trying not to glance at Sarah. But I could feel her completely still. Then he said it. "Captain Chun, step forward. You'll lead intel coordination for this mission. I'll never forget the silence." And then her voice. Clear. "Steady, sir. I respectfully decline." Every muscle in that room tensed. Hartwell's eyes narrowed. "Captain, this is a direct order." Her reply was even quieter. "Then I refuse that order." I heard someone behind me exhale. Another shifted their stance. No one said it, but we all knew she'd just stepped off a cliff. After that briefing, she disappeared. Not literally, but from our floors, our meetings, our world. Word was they pulled her into B4, the sublevel no one talks about unless they've been in it. Officially, it's for internal security reviews. Unofficially, it's where careers go to suffocate. She sat there for hours across from Colonel Mitchell, the Pentagon's chief investigator. Decorated, sharp, known for tearing people apart with just his questions. And Sarah. She didn't defend herself. She didn't beg. Just handed him the folder and said, "If I'm wrong, I'll take the consequences. But if I'm right, and we do nothing, 24, Americans are going to die." That was it. I heard Mitchell didn't respond for a full minute. Just stared at her like she'd spoken in a language no one dared use around here, truth without fear. And that's when I realized, maybe it wasn't mutiny. Maybe it was the only sane response in a room full of silence. Mitchell kept pushing. "Where did you get this intel? Who authorized you to cross-check these files?" Sarah didn't blink. She said one name. Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos. The room went still. Even Mitchell paused. Santos wasn't just anyone. She was a respected field officer, an intel analyst who'd spent years embedded overseas, a name that carried weight. Except she was dead. A car bombing in Islamabad, 3 weeks earlier, officially ruled as random. But Sarah said it wasn't. She claimed Santos had been investigating Raven, the source behind Operation Nightfall, long before any of us even knew that name existed. And, according to Sarah, Santos had warned someone. That someone inside was feeding false intel. That Nightfall wasn't a mission, it was a setup. And her death wasn't collateral. It was timed. Sarah didn't just make claims. She brought receipts, satellite imagery. cross-referenced reports, internal communications, a full dossier compiled with the precision only someone like her or Santos could have built. She laid it all out page after page while Mitchell watched in silence. At one point, I heard he said, "This goes above your clearance." She didn't argue, just looked at him and said, "Then raise the clearance, sir, or tell me what's the cost of staying silent." It should have been enough. Any rational system, any leader who truly wanted the truth would have paused the mission right there. But that's not what happened. The folder was logged, classified, locked, and quietly shelved. Not because it wasn't convincing, but because it was. And if it was right, then everything we believed in was already compromised. After that, Sarah didn't sleep. Not really. I'd see her in the halls at 3 a.m., still reviewing feeds, redlining maps, connecting names I didn't even recognize. And then one night she told me, "This isn't just bad intel. Someone's directing it, from inside." I remember going cold, not because I didn't believe her, but because I did. She showed me a string of internal comms, short, coded, routed through proxy systems that only a handful of officers had access to. One of the names on the routing list, my supervisor, my mentor, the man who once vouched for my security clearance. Sarah said, "If this is real, he's not just feeding bad data, he's moving pieces." She paused, then added, "And he's not working alone." I looked at the screen. It wasn't a glitch, it was a web, and someone we trusted was holding the center. The blowback didn't take long. 2 days after she flagged the internal breach, her system access was revoked. Just like that. No warning. One moment she was inside every intel feed, every encrypted line, and the next it was all gone. Her ID badge stopped working. Her clearances were downgraded. They didn't charge her. No, that would have drawn too much attention. They just quietly erased her from the system. I saw her that afternoon in the cafeteria holding a coffee cup that didn't match anything from the vending machines. I asked if she was okay. She looked me dead in the eye, tired but calm, and said, "They think cutting my access will slow me down." She took a sip and smiled, not the kind of smile you show people, the kind you give to yourself when you know something they don't. Then she reached into the bottom of that coffee cup and pulled out a microdrive. She'd backed it all up before they ever saw her coming. She could have gone to the media. She could have leaked everything. But Sarah didn't want chaos. She wanted to save lives. So instead, she went to the one person left in uniform who still had a reputation for listening even when it was dangerous. Colonel James Mitchell, a career counterintelligence officer. Decorated gruff and known for one thing, he never chased ghosts. But when he smelled smoke, he always checked for fire. She met him at Sublevel D, the old skiff bunker no one used anymore. I don't know what she said in that meeting, but when they came out 2 hours later, Mitchell's face looked like stone. He walked past me without a word, went straight to his team and said, "I want every file on Operation Nightfall cross-checked quietly. And pull everything we have on a source code named Raven, right now." One of his aides asked, "Sir, may I ask why Mitchell didn't even turn around? Because Captain Chun might be right. And if she is, we're not just walking into a trap. We're building it for them." They locked the doors, killed the signal, and for the next 9 hours, Sarah and Colonel Mitchell did what they both did best. They took it apart, line by line, source by source. Dozens of intel packets, all supposedly from Raven, that had led to weapons caches, enemy strongholds, insurgent hubs. Except, none of them had yielded anything real. The photos, misdated. The voice intercepts spliced. The GPS pings echoed off ghost towers. It was like the whole map had been designed to look real, just real enough to pass. And at the center of it all, Nightfall. A mission that looked airtight, because it was never meant to be questioned. Mitchell leaned back, rubbed his eyes, and said, "Someone built this. Carefully, patiently." Sarah nodded quiet. Then she pulled up a final overlay satellite heat signatures of the drop zone. It didn't match the op plan, but it did match something else, a kill box. "They're walking into a trap," she said, "and they don't even know it." And her voice cracked just once when she added, "My brother's one of them." That's when the plan changed. They couldn't go through channels, not anymore. Every line was compromised. Every report filtered through the same system that built the lie. So Sarah pulled up something Santos had left behind, a backdoor comms route, buried inside an old equipment diagnostics protocol. It had been designed for emergencies to send coded messages masked as maintenance requests. And Captain David Chun's unit had trained under Santos. He'd know how to read it. Sarah typed in the message slowly, line by line, her fingers almost shaking. It looked like a weather update, but the first letters of each sentence spelled out "Operation Compromised, Abort Mission." She hit send, and then they waited. 5 minutes. 10. The response came back, "Weather update received." Proceeding as scheduled. Mitchell exhaled through his teeth. Mitchell whispered, "Maybe he didn't see it." Sarah shook her head. "He saw it, but someone else is reading his messages." She looked down at the screen, and for the first time, she looked scared. They had less than 5 hours, and the clock wasn't just ticking, it was screaming. No more secret messages. No more waiting for someone else to move. Sarah turned to Mitchell. "If we don't stop this now, they die. All of them." Mitchell looked at the mission timer on the wall, 0400 deployment, then back at Sarah. "So, we confront him. Hartwell." "Yes, he might be in on it." Mitchell didn't blink. "And if he's not, he's the only one with the power to shut it down." They walked the hallway in silence, past men in medals, past systems that were built to resist doubt. And when they reached the door to Hartwell's secure briefing room, Mitchell turned to Sarah and asked, "You ready to lose everything for this?" Sarah didn't hesitate. "We already lost too much not to." Then she knocked once. Just once. The kind of knock that doesn't ask for permission, it demands an answer. And from the other side, a voice, "Enter." The door clicked open, and no one, not even Hartwell, was ready for what Sarah carried in her hand. The door clicked shut behind them. No aides, no press, no protocol, just 3 people and the weight of 24 lives between them. General Hartwell stood behind his desk, arms crossed, eyes unreadable. "Captain Chun," he said flat, "you've made yourself loud." Sarah didn't flinch. She placed the drive on the desk. "Sir, this contains data compiled by Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos. It proves Operation Nightfall is based on falsified intelligence." Hartwell raised an eyebrow. "Santos is dead," Mitchell cut in. "She didn't die in a random bombing. She was eliminated. Because of what she knew, silence." Hartwell looked at the drive, didn't touch it. "Do you know what you're accusing my command of?" Sarah met his gaze steady. "No, sir. I'm not accusing your command." She leaned forward. "I'm accusing the system that made sure you never saw the truth. That landed." Hartwell's eyes narrowed not in anger, but in calculation. He sat down. Finally opened the drive. As the files loaded, he muttered, "If what you're saying is true, this isn't just about one mission." Mitchell nodded grimly. "It's about who's really giving the orders. I wish I could tell you he decided right away, that he saw the truth, stood up, and shut it all down. But it wasn't like that." Hartwell sat in silence for what felt like hours. He scrolled through images, thermal overlays, comm logs, field intercepts, names, coordinates, signatures, and then the photos. General Patricia Blackwood, Deputy Secretary Richard Carver, meeting off books with foreign contacts in places no one was supposed to be. Sarah spoke quietly. "Sir, this doesn't just endanger our soldiers, it erodes the chain of command, the very thing you swore to protect." Hartwell looked up, and for the first time I saw something crack behind those eyes. Doubt. Not in her, in everything else. He closed the folder, leaned back. "If I pull this mission now," he said, "I destroy the credibility of 3 commands, 2 allies and half the senior brass in D.C." Sarah didn't blink. If you don't, she said you destroyed 24 lives in the next 3 hours. Hartwell exhaled. Long. Then he reached for the secure line, but he didn't press send. Not yet. His finger hovered above the button. One call, one command. That was all it would take to stop the mission. But just as his finger touched the command key, the entire room exhaled into darkness. The screens flickered. The signal lights on the encrypted comm line shut off. Even the ventilation unit stopped humming. Sarah's voice broke the silence. We just got locked out. Mitchell moved fast, checked the wall terminal, then the backup line. Nothing. Hartwell's expression hardened. No one's supposed to have access to override this room. Sarah pulled out her tablet, tried to ping the tactical ops channel. Dead. The screen blinked with one line, unauthorized access detected. System locked. Mitchell swore under his breath. They know. Hartwell stood jaw clenched. Then we're not just chasing ghosts anymore. Sarah looked at them both. They're watching us. She turned the tablet slowly, revealing something none of us expected. A live trace, not just of the comms being blocked, but of where the signal was being rerouted. It wasn't going dark, it was going up. Sarah zoomed in on the signal trace. Grid coordinates, routing nodes, all of them pointing to one place. Not a satellite uplink, not a foreign server farm. E-ring, Pentagon, inside. It's not just that they're watching, Mitchell said jaw tight. They're in here. Hartwell didn't sit down, didn't speak. He just stared at the blinking trace on the screen like it was a countdown to something none of us wanted to see. Sarah looked at him. Sir, we need to assume this goes higher than intel. Command level, possibly Joint Chiefs. Hartwell clenched his fists. We can't send a kill signal. We can't recall the mission. Then we fake one, Sarah said. Mitchell turned to her. A diversion. She nodded. We inject false data into their own system, make them think they've won, that we're out of options. Hartwell paced once, then grabbed the emergency access key from his drawer. You'll have 3 minutes on the mirror console before they lock us out again. That's all I need, Sarah replied. I don't know what scared me more in that moment, the fact that she had a plan, or the fact Sarah slid into the console like it was second nature. Her fingers moved fast, too fast for me to follow. Code strings, comms protocols, embedded markers hidden beneath system pings. I realized then, she wasn't just trying to block them, she was talking to them through their own network. The plan, feed a weather and terrain update that looked ordinary, but embedded with tactical overlays, coordinates of real Taliban strongholds, and, more crucially, the exact GPS position of the ambush zone. If David saw it, if he read it right, he'd know to change course. 30 seconds left, Mitchell warned. She hit send. The console hesitated, then blinked green. A single word lit the screen. Delivered. She didn't breathe. I didn't either. 5 minutes passed, then came the reply. Adjusting route, terrain too unstable, rerouting. Sarah looked up at us, and in her voice barely above a whisper, he got it. The relief lasted. Maybe 90 seconds. Just enough time for Sarah to lean back, eyes closed, whisper, he's safe. Then, every emergency light in the room snapped red. The airlock sealed with a hiss. Hartwell spun to the panel. They've triggered internal lockdown. Mitchell cursed under his breath. Someone's trying to box us in. Sarah grabbed her tablet, tried to override the room access. No response. Her screen blinked with one line, security breach, protocol, black. Personnel flagged. Chun, Mitchell, Hartwell. I felt it before anyone said it. We weren't just locked out. We were targets. And the footsteps were getting closer. Controlled. Tactical. Whoever was out there wasn't coming to negotiate. Mitchell grabbed a fire panel on the far wall and yanked. Behind it, not hoses, a rusted grate. Back in '94, he said through gritted teeth, this bunker had Cold War redundancies. One of them runs to sublevel 6. Sarah didn't hesitate. Hartwell didn't argue. She pulled the grate open and dropped. First, the shaft was narrow, steep, and reeked of dust and metal fatigue. Mitchell followed, then Hartwell. Behind them, the door burst open. Gunmetal boots hit concrete, but the room was empty. Below, they slid into a crawlspace barely wide enough to breathe in. Sarah checked her tablet, satellite ping still running. David's unit had shifted course, but if they didn't make it out in time to prove why, someone else would rewrite the story. "How far does this go?" Sarah asked, her voice echoing against steel. Mitchell grunted. "All the way to the old NSA conduit. If it's still active, we can uplink direct to the FBI." Hartwell snorted. "You mean if it hasn't been cemented over? And for a second, even in that filthy, forgotten tunnel?" Sarah smiled. "Then let's find out." The crawlspace ended at a steel hatch. No lights, no sensors, just a rusted wheel lock and 50 years of dust. Mitchell cracked his knuckles. "Last time I opened this, the Berlin Wall was still standing." With a groan, the hatch swung wide. On the other side, a forgotten comms room, dust-covered, powered down. But the hard line was still there. A direct uplink untouched by modern cloud firewalls. Sarah dropped into the chair, pulled out her drive, and started the upload. Operation Nightfall, Santos's logs, the surveillance photos, all of it. She encoded the destination FBI Counterintelligence Division. Secure node. Agent Rebecca Hayes. Progress bar 3%. Footsteps above 12%. Muffled voices 37%. The ceiling creaked. Hartwell gripped his sidearm. Mitchell checked the emergency release 72%. Sarah wiped sweat from her temple. Just a little more 98%. The door upstairs slammed 100%. Transmission complete. A single light flickered above them. The system spoke flat and robotic. Secure upload confirmed. Sarah leaned back. They can't stop it now, and for the first time since it all began, I saw her let go of the fear, just long enough to breathe. The data was out. That was the first victory, but we all knew, the people who built this conspiracy, they wouldn't go down quietly. Less than 5 minutes after the upload, Sarah's tablet lit up. A reply, short encrypted, unmistakable. Received. Stay dark. Extraction en route. Hayes Hartwell exhaled. FBI's moving. Mitchell nodded, eyes still on the hatch. So will they. We heard it then, echoing through the vent shaft's clipped radios. Boot steps. Not soldiers. Kill teams. Sarah unplugged the drive, slipped it into a magnetic case, and sealed it under the floor panel. Even if they catch us, she said, the truth's already walking out the door. But we all knew. If they did catch us, it wouldn't be for questioning. It would be for silence. Meanwhile, across town in a quiet gray building with no nameplate, Agent Rebecca Hayes stared at the data as it spilled across her screen. Names, proof, patterns. She picked up the red line. "This is Special Agent Hayes," she said. "I need warrants, I need air cover, and I need teams on Carver, Blackwood, and Torres within the hour. The conspiracy's real, and it ends tonight." The old comms tunnel fed into a service stairwell. No cameras, no sensors. Just steel and shadow. Mitchell moved first. Sarah followed. Hartwell covered the rear, step by step until they reached sub-level 3. That's when the lights cut out, again. But this time, not because of sabotage. This time, someone wanted the darkness. Down, Mitchell barked just as the muzzle flash sparked from the corridor. Gunfire tore through the stairwell wall, ricocheted off pipe and metal. Sarah dove low, pulled Mitchell with her. Hartwell fired 2 clean shots blind, then rolled behind cover. "They were waiting," he growled. "We've been tracked since the crawlspace. They want us dead," Sarah snapped. Not questioned, not detained. Dead. The radio on the attacker's belt crackled. Confirming. Chun, Mitchell, Hartwell, all 3. Fire at will. That was when a second flash lit the hall. But not from the attackers, from behind them. A stun grenade went off. Screams. Stumbling. And out of the fog a figure in full tactical gear moved fast, precise. Suppressed rounds dropped the ambush team before they could recover. Then the figure turned to Sarah and pulled off their helmet. It was David. "You weren't the only one with a back channel," he said, panting. "Next time you send a hidden message, sis. Maybe add a smiley face." David didn't wait for thanks. He led them down a utility shaft that hadn't seen light since before Sarah was born. "Safe house 2 blocks from here," he said, voice clipped. "Old NATO fallback site, still wired for uplink." Sarah asked, "How did you get here?" David just smirked. "Didn't think I'd ignore a message that started with terrain unstable." They moved fast, and somewhere between the locked doors and locked hearts. I think Sarah finally understood something. She hadn't fought this war alone. Meanwhile, in D.C., Agent Rebecca Hayes stood in front of the war board. 10 faces. 3 red circles. Deputy Secretary Richard Carver, apprehended at private airstrip. Colonel Vincent Torres, intercepted en route to Burn Center Vault. General Patricia Blackwood, last seen boarding a jet until the pilot turned state's witness. All primary conspirators in custody and agent confirmed. Hayes nodded once. Now comes the part they never expect. We go public. She turned to the press coordinator, voice like iron. "I want a statement drafted. Tonight. Full declassification. Full briefing. Because truth, when it finally shows up, doesn't whisper. It kicks down the damn door." I was there just behind the curtain. On stage stood General Hartwell's spine-straight uniform pressed to perfection. But his eyes. They told a different story than the first day I saw him. No longer distant, no longer cold. But heavy, the kind of weight a man carries when he realizes he's been walking in the wrong direction. And finally turned around. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "today we are not here to celebrate a mission. We are here to recognize a quiet act of courage." Behind him, the screen lit up with Sarah's photo standing in her uniform, no medals, no pose. Just still and unshaken. When she refused my order, I thought it was defiance, Hartwell said. But what it truly was loyalty at its highest. Silence fell across the room. Cameras clicked. Reporters leaned in. Generals looked down as if measuring their own careers by this moment. And when Hartwell extended his hand to invite Sarah on stage, she stepped forward slowly. No speech, no tears. She nodded once. No salute, no speech. Just the quiet defiance that had once shaken a room, now shaking a nation awake. Without a single word spoken, because truth, when it survives, doesn't need applause. It simply stands. I still remember the exact second. That day in the silent room when Sarah stood tall, unmoving, unspeaking, unsaluting, not out of rebellion, but because someone had to be the storm's warning before the sky even darkened. People keep asking, did she know how far it would go? Did she know it would unravel everything? The answer has always been the same, no. Sarah only knew one thing. A wrong order doesn't deserve to be followed, and silence chosen at the right moment can echo louder than any command. 3 months after the press conference, I visited her again. Not in a grand office, not behind medals or plaques, but in a quiet room inside a nameless counterintelligence unit. One screen, one map, one woman drawing lines no one else could see. I asked her, "Do you regret not saluting that day?" She smiled, shook her head. "I couldn't salute," she said gently, "not because I didn't want to, but because it wasn't right." Then she turned back to her screen. A new codename appeared, Fragment. Another threat, another operation, another quiet war beginning. But this time, we were ready. Because there are people like Sarah, people who don't need to raise their hand to be seen. They just need to stand firm, exactly when everything else is falling apart.